International MMA channel. My name's Hector. Had a great weekend of fights. That was a UFC on Fox 9. Demetrius Johnson ended up winning against Joseph Benavidez in a devastating knockout. Uriah Faber won, but we're not here to talk about that as much as it was a great event. We're here to talk about the best event of the year. They save it for the end. And it's going to have to be UFC 168, Weidman versus Silva 2. This is International MMA Channel. Follow us on Twitter at IMMA Channel. You can also follow us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/IMMA Channel. This will be the first Google Plus one that I'm going to try by myself. I'm going to do the predictions. That way it doesn't take too long with the whole rendering and editing. So it might be a little bit grainy, but I apologize. But we are going to do this show. So we're going to start with the prelims. First of all, let me just tell you when this event actually occurs. This event is UFC 168, Saturday, December 28th, live on pay-per-view. This is going to be from Las Vegas, Nevada. Prelims start at Fox Sports 1 prelims at 5 p.m. on the Pacific, 8 p.m. on the Eastern. And wherever the hell else people are at, figure it out, people. You're not going to want to miss. First event to start off Fox Sports 1 prelims is going to be John Doomsday Howard versus Ciara Bahaduraza the Great. This fight is John Howard's been gone for a little bit. He's barely made his comeback back to the UFC, as well as the Great one, the Great, should I say, is actually a fighter coming out of Afghanistan. Last time he fought Dong Hung Kim, and he lost by decision on this one. This one I'm going to have to give it to Doomsday Howard. He has that vicious knockout power that is seen in a couple of his earlier fights. Like I said, he's been missing for a little bit. He's back in the UFC, so it's very exciting to see Doomsday Howard. I'm going to have to give him the win on that one. The next one is going to be Manny Gambarian versus Dennis Seaver. Seaver is a vicious kickboxer from Germany. Manny Gambarian is fighting out of Los Angeles, California. This one I'm going to have to give it to Seaver. I like his kicks. I like his style. Very stocky, very muscular for his weight division. But, you know, I think he was in the lightweights and he went down. I'm going to have to give it to Seaver on this one. Gleison Tibau versus Michael Johnson. This is a very interesting fight. Michael Johnson has barely came back. He was losing a couple. He would go back and forth. Had a recent win. Gleison Tibau as well. I'm going to have to give it to Michael Johnson on this one. What I've seen him in the last fights, he looks a lot crisper, a lot more of a tactical fighter, and I like that about Michael Johnson, so I'm going to have to give it to Michael Johnson on this one. The next one is Chris Lieben versus Uriah Hall. This is kind of an unfortunate one where one of them might actually be cut from the UFC, just depending on how they do in this fight. Chris Lieben's last fights have not been spectacular. In fact, one of them was so bad that they removed him from being ever on a main event because of his gas tank. He has great knockout, and he goes on an autopilot that no other fighter I've seen that can actually defend himself while he's injured. Uriah Hall was coming off of this huge hype from the UFC. He was fighting out of a New Jersey boxing thing where it's an MMA. I apologize, I should have looked this up, but it's basically a ring with no cage. And he was fighting out of that thing, and he was like this devastating knockout artist, and he had one of the most devastating knockout highlight reels in the Ultimate Fighter history. Then he fought Kelvin Gastelum for the Ultimate Fighter contender, and after that he kind of didn't, live up to the hype that we were hoping for. On this, for this one, I know that Uriah Hall wants to make an impression and still wants to be the part of the top, to stay with the UFC. On this one, I'm going to have to give it to Uriah Hall just because of the questioning of Chris Lieben's gas tank. If Uriah Hall can take this fight to him, it has a potential having a knockout of the night as well. But I'm going to have to give it to Uriah Hall. I think he's a better all-around mixed martial artist. Lieben is a great fighter, but like I said, we question a lot of the times his cardio and just his conditioning. Nothing to give away from Chris Lieben. He's a maniac, and he always gives fun fights. Just the last two really haven't lived up to the hype that we knew Chris Lieben was at one time. We go to the
Better them than me.
We go to the pay-per-view event now. This is for the main card. It's going to be at 7 p.m., 10 p.m. in the East. The first fight is going to be Dustin Poirier versus, it's Brandao, but it's Diego Brandao. This one, I'm going to have to give it to Dustin Poirier. He is the top number 6 in his weight division. If Diego Brandao would be able to take him out, it would be a huge feather in his cap. But the diamond is a cut of slick diamond press. He's a very great fighter and a very explosive fighter. This is why they put him in the main event. I'm going to have to give it to Dustin Poirier. The next one is Fabricio Camões versus Jim Miller. Jim Miller's ranked number 10 right now in the UFC, 22-4-0. With the last one he fought was a no contest. Fabricio Camões is 14-7-1. This is a very intriguing fight. Both of them really not known as a knockout artist, more of a submission. I'm going to have to give it to Jim Miller. He carries an insane cardio, and I think that he can possibly go out the victor in this one, so I'm going to have to give it to Jim Miller. The next one is a heavyweight fight, and this is actually a very good fight. It's Josh Barnett, the War Master, versus Travis Brown, or Hapa. Travis Brown is coming off of a great victory off of All-Star Overeem, where he knocked him out. Travis Brown is no joke. The last one he believed that he lost was to Antonio Silva of Bigfoot. Right now he's ranked number 5. Josh Barnett is ranked number 6. Josh Barnett came off of a huge win off of Frank Mir. If you ever seen him on Strikeforce, he's a great fighter. The last loss, I believe, was for Daniel Cormier in the Strikeforce. Before Strikeforce actually closed, he said he was dealing with flu issues. He was very sick. He never really gives any excuses for his losses. That's the first time I've ever heard him. Never really complains about stuff like that. He's a funny character to watch, but I'm going to have to give it to Josh Barnett. Josh Barnett has this tremendous wrestling ability and just to stand up and bang. Same thing with Travis Brown. But I think Josh Barnett's wrestling is going to outshine Travis Brown, and I believe Josh Barnett's going to go ahead and close that distance, and we might see a submission probably by the second or third, or the end of the second or the third round. That's my prediction for that one. That one has Fight of the Night written all over it. The next fight is going to be Miesha Tate versus the champion Ronda Rousey for the championship belt. This is actually a very intriguing fight. This is number 2 for the ladies. The last one ended in the first round where Ronda Rousey grabbed Miesha Tate by the head and threw her in a judo throw, and then positioned herself, did some ground and pound, and before she even stopped, before she could even do the TKO, decided to put her on an armbar, ended it by dislocating Miesha Tate's arm. Miesha Tate is wants to seek revenge on this and wants to obtain the belt for the UFC. This is a great honor because, Ronda Rousey was the first one, and she wants to strip away from the thing. We all seen the rivalry. We all kind of seen the kind of personalities that they carry. Miesha Tate is nothing. She lives by the name Cupcake. She is like the sweetest person. You ever seen The Ultimate Fighter? She likes to get mischievous. Ronda Rousey's very just straightforward, very blunt. On this one, I'm going to have to give it to Miesha Tate on one aspect. If Miesha Tate does not get taken down by Ronda Rousey. If Miesha Tate can keep the distance from her, implement some leg kicks, and really try to focus of staying away from the guard of Ronda Rousey and just pick Ronda out from the outside, I think Miesha Tate can go ahead and win this. Ronda Rousey's only chance is to get close to the clinch, judo throw her, and we all know, go for the armbar. This will be her 9th, and she's going to try to go for her 9th armbar win straight. But for this one, I'm going to have to give it to Miesha Tate. A lot of people might disagree. You disagree with me? Go ahead and leave a comment. But I'm going to have to give it to Miesha Tate. Now the main card. Weidman versus Silva 2. This is a very interesting fight, not because of Weidman last knockout, but because Silva is coming off his first loss in nearly 6 years. So this is a very intriguing fight. For me, I'm thinking more of the psychological aspects of what is Silva really going to look like once he comes in. He knows he can't mess around with Weidman like he did, playing around, doing the things like we remember Sugar Shane Mosley and all the great boxers did. You can't do that in the MMA, disregarding his power, putting his hands down. Silva got caught. Weidman knocked him out on the last one. Silva was winning the fight, though. It was just his horse-playing that committed that loss towards him. So what is Weidman going to do for this fight, and how is Silva going to come out knowing that he lost to this guy? Is he going to come out victorious, or is this loss going to have a mental gain against him? This is a very interesting fight. I want to give it to Silva, but I'm going to have to say Chris Weidman retains the championship belt. And this is why. Weidman never showed his wrestling ability and could never get him. I think if Weidman is smart, he's not going to want to stand up and box with him. As much as he's been saying, I'm going to stand up and outstrike him. I'm going to stand up and do this. You know he doesn't want to do that. He wants to take Silva down. He's going to use his ground and pound, and he's going to put Silva away, just like Chael Sonnen. Weidman is one of the most renowned middleweights in that division, where Chael Sonnen had actually said at one time that anytime he heard that Dana White call and say, hey, can you take a fight at short notice, he would plead and pray that it wasn't Chris Weidman. This guy is a beast, and he's a legitimate middleweight. A lot of people have talked shit about him because of the lucky punch that he knocked out Silva. But is it really lucky, or is it a well-planted punch? I think Silva was arrogant and cocky, and it cost him the fight. On this one, we're actually going to see if Weidman can live up to the hype and bring him down. I'm going to have to give it to Chris Weidman on this one. So those are my picks. Howard, Seaver, Johnson, Hall, Poirier, Miller, Barnett, Tate, and Weidman. I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me, but my records look pretty good on my predictions so far. As well, I wanted to talk about GSP. Announced last Friday that he's retiring. A lot of people have given hype, want to know why, and this and this and that. And I think, me personally, I think everybody should leave him alone and let him decide if he comes back or not. I don't think he's going to come back. I don't think he has nothing to prove for him to come back. If he stays out of the game and doesn't come back, he still will go down as the best welterweight ever to grace the octagon. There's no doubt about that. He has to gain for him to come back. That's my thoughts about it. I'm just saying, leave the guy alone. Let him live his life. And if he decides to come back one day, then we will all enjoy knowing that we can go back to the theaters and watching him fight. But until that time, leave the guy alone. He wants to be a normal person. And I wish nothing but the best for GSP. This is Hector from International MMA Channel. You can follow us on Twitter at IMMA Channel. You can follow us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/IMMA Channel. I'll be back in a couple weeks, but until then, Happy New Year's. I hope you guys enjoy the fights. UFC 168, December 28th. Good night, good fights.